I mean, I think it is one of it's well, as far as I'm concerned, as a learning rep, it's probably one of the kind of the sort of hidden equalities issues that we do. We can generalise and talk about whole primary schools being in a kind of sort of an area of deprivation, but again, you're probably doing a disservice to schools that aren't, but you still have substantial numbers of pupils that will be, and I think poverty, and again, poverty is one of the ones it's one of the kind of sort of, I say minority groups, but it's probably a kind of, well, it's now a growing group, given the kind of COVID outbreak that people, for everyone, there's no real pride to be part of that group. So I think that's where I think the culture changes. We'll have to kind of sort of, first of all, identify them, and then work out the kind of sort of, the strategies they want. And I think that there is it's now such a culture change. I think there's a culture deficit regarding poverty and how we tackle it. As I say, because there's not a lot of positives you can work with the families that are the communities that are facing that. So yeah, I think professional learning, and as teachers, again, I've just criticised generalisations, but I'm going to a huge generalisation that there's probably not a great cohort of teachers who come from sort of, deprived backgrounds, simply because of the sort of path you have to take to become one. Most professions, I would say, are like that. I mean, there will be, it's not exclusively middle class, but I think given the kind of probably the trends of the last 30 years, you're going back probably to the sort of the early 70s where you had sort of free university education. So I think most professionals, I would say, don't really have a handle on it because they've never really experienced it. But again, apologies for the generalisation there.
I think that you're right, Colin. There are lots of issues. I think one of the things that's very interesting just now is the number of students in initial teacher education now who are first generation at university. And so maybe there's a shift coming, but absolutely, totally agree with you. Poverty is an issue for the whole of Scotland. It isn't just an issue for schools where they have deep areas of poverty within the school community. It's an issue for every citizen in Scotland. And I think that the Pact approach gives everyone the opportunity, to think these issues through. It brings together different policies, so it integrates in to what's happening in people's lives. But most importantly, it allows teachers and others to work together to think through what the practical implications might be for the way that they live their professional lives. And for me, that's the kind of core of why Pact matters so much.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think sort of the long, well, again, for me, the sort of long-term kind of influence it'll have on communities to kind of, it's not a kind of sort of, this will fix it, but what it will do, it'll help teachers, it'll help then communities to kind of say, well, to sort of reflect and question what do we need to do. And I think that's important as well, because again, it's this, I think I say this at most meetings I attend now these days, is the doctor doesn't always know best. You've got to kind of sort of give communities the kind of tools. And I think we've maybe sort of lacked that as a society for these years. I mean, and the other thing, again, just in the current economics future, is there's a lot of people who are not in poverty at the moment who probably will end up there over the next year or so. So I think the timing's really good for Pact, and it is that collaborative approach. It's difficult to approach as well. It's difficult to tell parents that you're in poverty. But I think I think by kind of sort of soft pointers and soft indicators to kind of say, look, this is what we can do to help the school and the wider community. And I agree. I think the Pact's approach, and it's not about sort of standing in the town square and shouting about it. It's just about just kind of gently saying, look, this is what we can be doing here. I think that will help.
I think that's absolutely right, Colin. I think it's in fact, I think that's central to what it's about. There's a lovely quotation at the beginning of the Pact program, which is education isn't a way to escape poverty, but it's a way of fighting it. And I think the vast majority of teachers and people who are involved more generally in working in schools want to fight poverty. They just don't always know how. And so I think what this will do is it will give people opportunities to open up, as you're saying, ideas that it's very difficult sometimes to talk about. So it will provide a safe space for people to have these difficult conversations. I think you're right that the COVID situation has made these issues far more, brought them to the fore of people's thinking far more, and a wider group of people. And I think the other thing that is central is that Pact has taken a human rights approach to this. So, poverty breaches your human right. This isn't, it's not charity. It actually is society righting wrongs that society has inflicted. And the other thing that I think is important in the context just now is the fact that Scotland has just taken the UN Convention of the Rights of the Child into law. So that changes the whole arena, I think, for this. This is not something now that people will do because they think it's a good idea. It's actually part of our legal framework. Yeah,
that is. I do. I mean, I think sort of social mobility and regeneration of communities. It was always seen as like poverty was a kind of given that you had to sort of have it in society. It had to be there. But I agree. I think there's a change now. We're saying actually no.
We're going to choose not to have poverty.
Yeah.
And that will become a priority for us as a society as we move forward. And I think that this resource gives the opportunity to begin these conversations about how we actually make this kind of transition that we all want to make in our hearts, but are not quite sure what to do that is most likely to be successful.
Yeah, I do. I think it's that spark that's needed just to kind of start it, because it's not. I don't think it's going to 5 years time we're going to say that's poverty gone. Let's think about something else now. But I think that for schools and for parents and communities, I think Pact is just that kind of spark that people start talking about it now. And I think if you start kind of discussing about how we can kind of fight it, then I think I suppose even that term fight, it's a bit more empowering than someone taking you out of poverty. If you're kind of fighting it, you're sort of you're engaged in it. You know what I mean? It's a bit more positive. Well, I can't the word fight, but to me it sounds positive because you're taking control of it. Yeah, no, I think it's And again, I think we have to be quite clear. It's not a kind of quick fix, but you've got to start somewhere. And I think it's going to be great. The only sort of funny thing is that I think the Pact project, I said this at one of the other ones as well, question was, the Pact project was kind of initially to fight the causes of the 2008 austerity measures. We're now using it to kind of look to the future to try and combat the pending, but we're in a recession now, but it's strange. I think the time is great.
Yeah, but I think what that's taught us is that there will always be factors that cause real difficulty for families and communities. And so we have to be in a position where we understand these changes and understand what needs to be done in order to help mitigate the worst effects of whatever is thrown at us, whether it be, financial collapse or international pandemic. But there will always be events, as Macmillan said, that will disrupt the best laid plans.
Yeah. No, I'm just trying to think. Yes, I suppose for some kind of communities, the only stability has been poverty in their lives. But I mean, again, I think the way they kind of Pact, the way the professional then for teachers, it's not really kind of. It's just different to look at different strategies, because I think it will change between schools. I mean, there's not two schools the same. I mean, you have comparator schools and things, but you know, as far as communities go, there are no two schools the same. And I think Pact project's not been prescriptive by saying, right, here's your flowchart and checklist. So I think it's great, yeah. But again, and I think it is one of the things. This initial teacher training is quite good because I think that you want to get teachers as quickly as possible, or new teachers as quickly as possible on board with this as well. And I know it's difficult for sort of, you know, probationary teachers going into school, especially now. It's not the thing that's foremost in your head, but I think by kind of launching it and giving it a platform, I think it will help. Because again, in Scotland, I mean, there are a few schools where poverty may not be as big an issue, but I would like to say it's a Scotland-wide thing. I think every school is touched by it. And I think, you know, every teacher will either be directly involved with kids, depending on numbers. So yeah, no, I think that's how you have to really just, and that's the current situation. I don't know about like in 18 months and things are really bad. But yeah, I think the sooner we can get to younger teachers and say, look, this is an issue, because I mean there is a direct impact, I think, on learning. You know, if you're coming in hungry, I know these are sometimes kind of jaded and trite arguments that we say, but they are still relevant and they're real. Going to school hungry, not having the proper equipment, not sleeping properly at night because you're whatever. I mean, you know, it's sad to say they are still at the top of the list.
Absolutely. Colin, and I think the point you make that is a really good one, that poverty is an individual issue. You know, every school in Scotland will have young people, whether it be one young person or whether it be hundreds. But there will be people in every school in Scotland who are trying to cope with the particular pressures brought by poverty. And, you know, perhaps in those schools where it's not so obvious, there are even bigger difficulties because it's hidden. And it's more likely to be, you know, associated with something that people don't want to discuss if the person feels to be in a minority. So in some ways, it's even more important that every school in Scotland is aware of the effect that these issues have, because poverty is an individual thing. Poverty is something you experience. Although our systems sometimes, you know, talk about areas of, you know, where there's deprivation, areas of poverty, but actually, poverty is, just as you say, it's the fact that as a young person, I don't have enough to eat. You know, I can't afford the clothes that I need for school. That my life is negatively affected because of the financial circumstances in which I'm living, and it is not my fault.
Yeah, no, okay. I mean, again, it's one of the areas of equality that, I mean, as a working adult, I'm probably only about 3 months away from poverty should I lose my job. And I think most people, you know what I mean, most people are like that. So I live, it's maybe not month to month, but it's, you know, I mean, it can happen at, you know, at any stage. And I think, and again, I think that I mean, again, that must filter down in households. If your father or your mum or whatever, you know, that kind of sort of anxiety that they're feeling at the moment because of the kind of sort of stress of losing their job and possibly not getting another wages, that has to filter down within a household. And again, which will then filter into school. And I think I mean, I like to think that in schools the Pact project can at least offer some hope to some children.
Yes, I think that's right. And I think hopefully go beyond that, you know, to actually encourage not just schools, but also the wider system to see this as Scotland's major priority and drive everything towards tackling these real issues that people are facing every day.
Yeah, and it's one of the things I suppose even as an adult, you feel to understand. And again, I'm trying not to sound particularly naive on this, but we were a wealthy country, the UK, Scotland. I mean, you think, why have we got it? You know, I mean, it's not one of these things that obviously we don't really have that great control over the pandemic to some extent. But you think, poverty, why have we got it? You know, we're a kind of powerful economic country, and it just seems bizarre.
Yes, I think that's right. And so there are bigger questions to be addressed, you know, and I think for poverty really to be tackled, then Pact will form one very important part of that. But, you know, research on sustainable change argues that you really need three parts of a process to make a real difference. You know, one is that it has to have education integrity. So people need to believe that what they're being asked to do matters. And I think that for this Pact is pushing an open door. Teachers in Scotland understand that poverty matters. And I think they really are committed to do something about it. And then the second issue is that there needs to be personal and professional integrity. So there needs to be a resource like Pact, and teachers need to be part of that process in order to think through, as you say, what it means for them in their classroom. Because not only, I think, is every school in Scotland different, every classroom is different. And so I think one of Pact's strengths is that it allows that flexibility for people to adapt ideas into the circumstances within which they work. But the third big issue for change is we would call systemic integrity. So it needs all of the parts of the system to work together. And some of these broader issues about asking questions around why is it that a comparatively rich country like Scotland still has such levels of poverty is an important political question to be asked.
Yeah, no, totally. As I said, I agree completely. I think it's almost like the answers are there. We just need, and maybe as I say, Pact, as I say, if you're doing that for for young people and families, then maybe that's something will come from that, something will sprout from that. I don't know, but yeah, no, it's you're not looking at something that, you don't know really like what to do. I mean, the whole poverty issue again. I know I sound particularly naive when I start talking like this, but you think it's there. You know what I mean? It can be done. It's you just need that spark. Yeah.
I think Pact draws on it draws on research, it draws on policy, and it draws on practice. You know, and I think these three big drivers give it the best possible chance of making a difference. And, you know, like you, I'm sure I would encourage, every school in Scotland to think hard about this and to think what role they can play in actually making Scotland a better place for all of Scotland's young people.
Yeah.
And if that sounds naive, I don't mind sounding naive.
Yeah, no, I'm very much like you. You know what I mean? I just think we're not kind of doing this on the back of something that's kind of not there. I mean, there's sort of poverty. It's I was going to say it's always real, but it's bigger, or it's going to likely to get bigger. I mean, we're heading in that direction. So I think the timing in releasing this. I mean, again, I can't see any reason why any school wouldn't be involved in this, given the kind of the factors that we're going to face in the next couple of years, couple of months. It may even be more than that. I think the way they're talking, they're now talking about mortgaging COVID, which in the sense that they're going to sort of take, sort of borrowing is going to get paid over sort of 25 to 30 years because it's that big. So I mean, again, it's not, and that's on the assumption that we're going to have a nice clear run in the next 25 years. If anything, COVID's just shown how exactly, yeah. So I think schools, I mean, they should be battering down the door with the Pact project, saying, "Look, can you guys come out? Can you tell us exactly?" Absolutely.
Colin, as someone who is very close to practice, what do you think that would make the difference between Pact being taken up and used really well in schools or not?
Well, to be honest, I mean, I think it will, simply because as a sort of teacher, there are sort of two types of policy changes. So the ones that come from above, and it's all about it's a kind of theoretical okay, we're going to do this. It's something that it's what we call a hufty. You know, I mean, you have to do it, right? Scottish Government have said it, the council have said it, so it's a hufty, right? The other ones are the kind of real, tangible ones that have a big difference. But we kind of seen that with the curriculum for excellence. Was a kind of when it was the kind of whole kind of curriculum thing. Most teachers really but as soon as it became like tangible, like NAP 5 changes, higher changes, that's when people buy in. And I think, unfortunately, Pact's relevance is real. So I think that's the kind of buy-in. It's that thing, how will this affect me? I mean, again, I can remember, hungry for success, all these kind of things about school meals. I mean, nobody disagreed they were important, but because they didn't have a direct influence in their classroom practice, it was seen as we'll have to do this. And I think schools kind of saw things. So I think in this case, that this is a kind of, it's a policy that's getting kind of, or a project that's getting launched at the exact same time where there's a genuine direct need.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I'm saying about the timing. I keep going about the timing of this. It's incredible. I mean, we couldn't have planned it any better. That people are going to say, well, there are higher levels of poverty. Kids are, we can see that in my class. What can I do? And then it's like, voila, Pact is here. You know what I mean? So I think that's the difference. I don't think it will sit on a shelf. I don't think it'll be a kind of treated as a hufty. I think it'll be treated as a resource that will get used, and that'll be from across the board.
If you were a head teacher, Colin, if you were a head teacher, what could you do in your school, do you think, that would help teachers make the most of this resource?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think as a head teacher in school, the first thing I would do is you would give it a priority. And I know that there's a kind of, there was always a sense that, if everything's a priority, that the Scottish Government won, but generally speaking, you give it a priority. And you can always tell that. You can always tell when you have sort of staff meetings that if something were being discussed, that this is a priority. Again, one of the good things I think is you could set up a Pact group, which is not going to be that particularly onerous in schools because you should be meeting online. So, these things can happen. Yeah. You give it prominence, and I think that's what's going to happen. It will get prominence. Yeah. Because it's going to have a direct impact in schools. It's as simple as that. Yeah. Again, if you don't, what's the alternative? Yeah. And I think primary schools will do it, but I think secondaries will buy into this as well. And I think it's level of engagement. Yeah. And I think it will be. And to be honest as well, in schools where head teachers, maybe sometimes head teachers could come and say as the gatekeepers, the sort of policy coming down. I think given the kind of the stark reality, I think you'll get groups of teachers and individual teachers who will be pressing school management to get this in. I think EIS has got a role probably in sort of promoting it to the general public, because again, I mean, again, I'm saying teachers. I think people councils, parent councils, they should be knocking on head teachers' doors as well to say, what's this Pact?
Absolutely. Everyone who has a role to play in and beyond the school community in supporting children's learning should understand poverty.